With our ranking member, we're going to open it for a second round of questions, if we might. I'll start off, and I'm sure Mr. Whitesides might have some questions as well if you wanted to follow up from yours earlier. I think one of the things that we wanted to get into is the safety concerns on the ISS. There's been, I think, some thoughtful questions by Mr. Whitesides and others about when the date might be that we deorbit. There's been concerns about which segment within the ISS might be the greatest concern for safety. I've heard some discussion among some of the folks who come to visit with me in my office about the Russian component to that space station. Mr. Montalbano, would you mind commenting on that potential safety concern that you all might have with NASA?
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, as I said, safety is the priority that we do every day. We talk to our flight control team, and almost every meeting we have, safety is a priority. So I want you to know that we take that very seriously. Looking at the space station, just a couple things. It's been talked today about age of the space station. Throughout the 25 years, what we do on space station for our critical systems, for example, our life support systems, when something breaks, we bring it home, we find out why it broke, we repair it, we fix it, we have a new design, and we fly it and we test it again. So today, the reliability of space station, our parts are actually failing less, even though we're flying longer, because we've updated and we've upgraded these parts. And a lot of the stuff we do on space station today is flowing forward to the Orion spacecraft and the Artemis
program.
If
I could, how does that compare with what the Russians might be doing at that same station?
Okay, so there's a lot of talk about this area we've called the PRK. It's an area section, about a 4-foot section, the aft end of the Russian segment. It has had some structural issues where we've seen some leaks. Today, the current position right now is there are no leaks. The leaks have been, they put some sealant over it and we're not leaking. However, we're still worried about the structure there. And today, what we do is we minimize the time that we're in that area. And when we're in that area, we close the hatch between the U.S. and the Russian segment, and we put the crew members on, the U.S. crew members on the side of the U.S. side where that hatch is closed. The other thing we do is we minimize the time it's pressured. So when that area is not pressurized, it's not the risk isn't there. It's only when you're doing the pressurization, which you don't do every day. You do periodically, maybe every 6 weeks or so. Going forward, the plan is to minimize the use of that area and work with our Russian colleagues such that we could have a vehicle docked instead to that port where that area of leak is to another port where we can transfer supplies so we can save that port and save for the lifetime of the International Space Station.
Thank you. And along the same lines, and talk about deorbiting, how about the idea of just shared cost associated with deorbiting the space station in the future? There's been discussion about to negotiate and barter with our ISS partners. Will this be a cost that is borne by the United States taxpayer, or will this be a shared cost when we potentially deorbit?
It'll be a shared cost, and we already have an agreement with our counterparts on a shared cost that'd be based on the mass of your segment.
Mr. Precourt, in your written testimony, you highlight ASAP's ongoing concerns about the need for a comprehensive and executable strategy for the transition from the ISS to commercial space stations. You also note that the current lack of strategy creates a credible risk of a gap in the U.S. human spaceflight capability in low Earth orbit. Could you elaborate on that?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yes, there's as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 buckets that we worry about with respect to the resources to ensure continued safe operations. Mr. Montalbano just did a really nice job of explaining how they are operating and managing risks. And the great thing about that bucket is that we are aware of the risks. We've been communicating them across the interface between us and Russia, in particular for the PRK. And we are dealing with them with action. The second bucket is how we transition to the new space station entities. And you take the immense amount of experience on the current space station and then the budding experience coming from the new elements and marrying them together, this phased approach of moving and migrating from the station to the CLDs and resourcing that transition is really, really critical so that they get off on a good foot. We learned a lot from the Mir space station and a lot of the risks that were realized on that station that have not ever materialized on ISS because of the great lessons learned. And then finally, the third bucket is resourcing the deorbit vehicle appropriately so that we maintain that safety.
Thank you, Mr. Brecourt. And with my